Hi folks, welcome to Ditto Insurance. Today we are finally shooting a video that you guys have requested the most. As you folks know that Care Supreme, one of the flagship products by Care Health Insurance, was released around 2 or 3 years ago. And after 3 years, they've come back with one solid plan. And you guys have asked us for it, and we took our time to look at the first view. And we are back with a comprehensive review of Care's new plan, Ultimate Care. So, to talk about this in detail, I have with me in the studio Sushant, the Senior Program Manager here at Ditto. Welcome, Sushant.
Thanks, Shashank. Happy to be back.
So, folks, before we dive into the video, a little something about Ditto. If you guys are new here, then consider subscribing Ditto first before I tell you that Ditto is an insurance advisory platform where you can get free health and term insurance advice. You can compare policies with us, port your policies, or even understand how insurance works, all at no cost to you. So, we have a special link in the description through which you can skip the queue, and we will assign an IRDI certified advisor to you within 2 minutes. And over a 30 minutes call, we can explain to you everything you need to know about insurance, and we can pick the best policy for you. So, what are you waiting for? Head to the link in the description and book your free call. Now, Sushant, I think I have been running around the office like a maniac to the product team to see when we can review this plan, uh, Ultimate Care.
Okay.
So, as soon as the brochure reached your desk, can you tell me what is the one thing that caught your eye, or multiple things that caught your eye?
Right. So there are actually a lot of interesting features they've come up with. Some new changes, some things that are a bit different from how they've been done in the industry so far. So I'll probably elaborate on them as we go forward. The first thing that probably stood out to me was that they've kind of made it clear that this is not for porting or migration. Meaning, if I have another policy of XYZ insurance company and I wish to now get into Ultimate Care, I can't port my policy. I have to buy a fresh plan. And let's say if I'm already a Care insurance customer and I hold Care Supreme, I now wish to migrate to Ultimate Care, even that's not possible. It's only for new customers, meaning you can only buy this plan as a fresh plan. So that's something that I found a bit unique, that they're not willing to accept, porting in such situations as well. Another thing that really stood out to me was the price lock-in. Most companies that I've come across, insurance for health insurance, they allow a maximum of 3 years, meaning I can buy a policy for at 3 years at most, right? I can't buy it for longer than that. Wherein I lock my price, I get discounts and so on. But this policy allows it for up to 4 or 5 years even. I think 5 years is the maximum. So that we get an advantage of long-term security, price lock-ins, discounts and so on. So I thought that was unique as well. They're even offering newborn baby coverage, which is interesting because most companies and policies out there, they follow the rule that the child should be minimum 91 days old before entering a plan. Here they've said that even a newborn day one, 1 day old baby can join this insurance plan. However, they don't have any maternity benefits though. Now that in general is a feature Ditto doesn't really recommend or back too much, so I think that's fine, not really a deal breaker as such. Then I think some common ones we're seeing a lot these days is for specific illnesses like hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol, they're offering a reduced waiting period. If a person already suffers from these conditions while buying the plan, they don't need to wait 3-4 years. They can get the plan, they can get coverage for these after 30 days itself. And lastly, I think another sort of common feature we're seeing now is the discounts for young individuals who stay fit and stay active, and they get rewarded for maintaining healthy lifestyle. So I would say these were my top 5 things that really stood out to me. That these are interesting.
Pretty great features there, Sushant. Now let's dive deep into the basic policy features and see what all bases do they cover.
Okay. I think pretty common basic ones. Let's say firstly, if I were to talk about the sum insured, 5 lakh is the minimum and it goes up to 1 crore. There's no co-payment clause. There are no room rent limitations. ICU charges are covered. I think one feature that really stood out to me though was the inpatient hospitalization. Most companies follow the rule that the patient should be admitted for at least 24 hours to be covered. If not, then it goes onto a separate category called daycare treatments. But here Ultimate Care has said that if you're hospitalized for a bare minimum of 2 hours itself, that's good enough. They'll cover you for your hospitalization charges. So I thought that was interesting and something new that they've come out with. Aside from this, again, I think the common ones, automatic restoration up to the entire sum insured, Pre and post hospitalization is decent. I think pre is about 60 days and post is about 90 days. This is a bit lesser than what we've seen out there, but it goes up to 180 days, meaning if a person's been discharged from the hospital, he can be covered for the next 6 months almost for miscellaneous related expenses. But here it's just 90 days is what ultimate care is offered. Ayush treatments are covered, which are your alternate forms of treatment, and I think that's also something that some people do prefer to have available.
All right, Sushant. Now let's look at some standout features of Ultimate Care.
Okay, there are a few interesting ones, so we're going to list them out one by one. First is the instant cover add-on. I think wherein if you're already diagnosed with the top 4-5 conditions, which is diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, asthma, and I think a couple of heart conditions as well. Normally the waiting period is at least 3 years, right, from the day you purchase your plan. But Ultimate Care has said that you can pay us a bit more for this add-on and we'll reduce it straight to 30 days.
Okay.
So essentially you are going to be covered from pretty much the first year you purchase that policy. Which is a really good feature. I think for people suffering from those conditions, that's probably their biggest worry, right? That, hey, will I be covered for this or not? And if you're willing to shell out a bit more, then why not? You will have some protection. Then there are a few new add-ons that I have personally never seen before in the industry. One is called a Premium Payback feature. So let's say if I don't make a claim for the first 5 years that I've purchased this plan, at the end of those 5 years, they will give me back my first year's premium. While it might not be worth much in health insurance, this has never been a concept, right, where you get your money back at the end of it.
Exactly.
And not all of it. Like I said, out of 5 years, you'll get just 1 year's worth of premiums. But nonetheless, I think it did stand out to me that, hey, this is something interesting they're trying to do. Now, we'll obviously see how it plays out in the market and how people respond to this sort of a feature. Right. Grace period coverage was another one. Now, normally how it works is if I have an insurance policy for a year, from 1st Jan to December, 31st December, I will have 15 days of grace period to pay my premium. Meaning after 31st December, I still have another 15 days to pay the premium and, continue that policy and renew it. But how grace period works is that you're not actually covered for the insurance. Your insurance expired on 31st of December. Grace period is simply an opportunity for you to come back and pay your premiums in case you've missed it and ensure you have continuity with the renewal.
So if something happens during that grace period, it's
generally out there, every health insurance company doesn't cover you, right? You're not covered because your policy expired on 31st of December, plain and simple.
Understood.
Ultimate Care has said that even in grace period, we'll cover you. For them, it's just a matter of 10-15 days, but I thought that was really nice of them to kind of include that as well.
Wow, that's something really new.
Exactly. So your renewal date still stays the same. Should you miss your premium for whatever reason, right? An extra 10-15 days of coverage is what would give a customer maybe a little more peace of mind. So this one, the next feature seems a little too good to be true. I personally as well did review it a couple of times just to make sure that this is actually what I read. And this is what it seems like. So it's called the Infinity Bonus. Now how this works is you will get a 100% bonus every year, regardless of claims made. So even if you make a claim or you don't make a claim, next year you will get a 100% bonus. Now the interesting part here is that there's no cap. Most companies have it at 100%, 200%, or I think I've seen 500% at most. Here, there is no ceiling. So let's say if I buy a 10 lakh plan, and for the next 10 years, I keep renewing this policy.
1 crore.
0.1 crore, 10 from the base and 10 years worth of bonuses as well.
I mean, Amitabh Bachchan would say 1 crore.
Exactly. So I thought that was interesting. And like I said, to me, it still seems a little too good to be true, but I do think it's true. So it's good to see that. Then we come to another one called Loyalty Boost. Again, a bit interesting. What they've done is if you don't make a claim for the first 7 years, at the end of those 7 years, they will double your sum insured. Whatever base sum insured you had purchased, bonus separate, right? The base sum insured will be double at the end of those 7 years without any additional waiting period. So how it works in health insurance is if I've bought a 10 lakh or a 20 lakh plan and 5 years later I decide to increase the sum insured or my cover amount. The insurance companies say that, look, for the last 7 years you've been covered for 10 lakhs, so those waiting periods have been cleared. Now, if you want to make it 20 lakhs, you'll have to serve additional waiting periods on the 10 to 20 amount. So 10 lakhs you've served waiting periods, on the additional amount your waiting periods start from scratch. This is common. Every company will do this because it makes sense, right? I mean, you can't just suddenly expect to double your sum insured and be covered from the next day.
True.
But Care says that, look, we'll do it for you. Just stick around with us, stay healthy for 7 years, don't make claims. We'll double it and we won't impose any waiting periods. So again, a bit interesting, a bit unique compared to what the others are doing.
True.
Then we have the wellness benefit. This is wherein they have their app that you need to download and it tracks your steps, your fitness, regimen and everything. And at the end of the year, when you go to renew the policy, you can avail of discounts of up to about 20-30% in your premiums as well. This, I think, is common now in the industry. The discounts, of course, might vary. Some give you barely 8, 10, 15%, but your care is promised us up to 30%. So obviously, they do have slabs and metrics that we need to fulfill as customers that only then we're eligible for those discounts. But that's something that is in this plan as well. And lastly, something called the Medi voucher benefit. Again, a bit interesting. You will get 2 vouchers of 250 rupees each to use at a pharmacy to buy basic medicines, over-the-counter medicines, and so on. And I think this is given to you after your first renewal. After you renew your policy after the first year, that's when you'll get this benefit.
All right, Sushant, I think those were some really interesting features. Some heard, some really unheard. And I think what we'll have to wait and watch is how many of the features actually help customers at the end of the day. Now, we know that no plans are pretty and perfect. Do you see any drawbacks or any concerns as to why you would not recommend Ultimate Care to anyone?
Not necessarily. I don't think drawbacks to that extent where I wouldn't recommend it. I think these are drawbacks that I would say just be mindful of while buying the plan, right? Just be aware of these.
Okay.
So one, for example, I think I already mentioned was the post-hospitalization coverage. I felt the duration there was a bit short. Out there, people are offering it for up to 180 days. And even Ultimate Care's predecessor, Care Supreme, offers it for 180 days. But here they've limited to just 90 days. Not bad, but like I said, not a deal breaker per se. Moving forward, something similar that Care Supreme also did as well. Now, what these guys do is they price their base plan quite reasonably, and they offer a lot of features in the form of add-ons. Most of the interesting features I spoke about all come in the form of optional add-on. Now, here optional being the keyword because Care, what they do sometimes is they make a couple of add-ons mandatory. They don't make them optional anymore. So they introduce them as add-on riders, but you have to buy them when you're purchasing the plan. Okay. I think maybe it's just their way of ensuring that the bare minimum premium that you pay is a bit higher, right, than their base plan.
Makes sense.
And two, this is something flexible that they can kind of work with, wherein tomorrow, if they want, they could remove these as well. As opposed to, let's say, if they make it a feature in the base plan itself, they can't play around with that. It's part of the plan. But if it's an add-on, they get to decide tomorrow that, hey, is it mandatory, is it optional, do we impose it or not, and so on.
Right.
So a couple of them are like the grace period coverage, the premium buyback, all of those are, mandatory add-ons that you need to pay for while buying the plan. And it's the same thing in Care Supreme as well. There were 2, 3 at least that you would have to choose. Lastly, not really a drawback as such, but I think a point worth mentioning is the lack of maternity coverage. I wouldn't call this a drawback because, like I said, we at Ditto as advisors, we don't recommend this as a feature, right? Considering how the cost goes up, how there's limits on maternity and so on. But nonetheless, it is still a common feature that people use in an event that probably everyone goes through at least once in their life. So some people do prefer to have it covered no matter the slight drawbacks and limitations. So their Ultimate Care has not even given the option. Plain and simple, they don't have the feature.
Right. And I think, Sushant, at this point, what a lot of our audience is thinking is Care Supreme had this, but Ultimate Care doesn't have this. Or Care Supreme didn't have this and Ultimate Care does have this. So I think this calls for another video where we compare their flagship product and their successor, the Ultimate Care. So folks, if you want to see this video, then let us know in the comments below and we will shoot that video really soon and release it for you folks. So Sushant, now let's finally come to the pain point, which is how much is this ultimate plan of care going to cost me?
Okay, so I think here firstly I'll probably choose the highest benchmark in terms of zones. So I will choose the city as Delhi when I'm giving out the prices for Delhi NCR. So you can assume that for the rest of India, this will obviously be a bit cheaper. Firstly, for a single adult, 30-year-old, the premiums are about 11.5 to 12,000 for a 10 lakh sum insured plan, including GST. If I were to consider two 30-year-old adults now, it goes up to about 16.5, 17,000, which is again quite reasonable. And lastly, if you look at the similar profile, but 2 adults and a child, this goes up to about 21,000. So I think, yeah, like you can see, it's not bad, quite reasonably priced. All of this for a 10 lakh sum insured with all those interesting features, bonuses and everything. I think you'll get your money's worth.
All right, Sushant. Now let's end this video. But before we do, any final thoughts on the Ultimate Care plan?
So I think Ultimate Care is definitely a step in the right direction for care insurance. They've come up with a lot of industry-first features, features we'd never heard of before, like grace period coverage, loyalty boost, and so on. And I think this also puts them, like they're able to sort of compete with a lot of interesting plans out there. Like ICICI's Elevate plan, for example, Niva Bopa's Aspire plan as well. I think until now these were plans that really had some unique features, but I think Care is joining that league as well. So yes, we're quite happy with the plan and we're excited to see how it pans out.
Likewise, Sushantan. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us the ultimate review of Ultimate Care. So, folks, if you joined us till the end, then that means that you have landed in the right place to purchase health and term insurance. So, if you'd like to do that, then book a free cost consultation with Ditto with a link in the description. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, happy insurance hunting.